Hey everyone, in this video you will find ideas, tips, and tricks on using the items included in the Waffle Flower Club kit for March 2024. In the kit you will find the Wild Flowers stencil, the Small Sentiments Bloom stamp set, and the Sub-Sentiment Bloom die cut. The project card includes the ink colors used on Galina's samples, and you'll see how she puts the cards together later in this video.
Let's start with our first card. Have you noticed the line around the pattern on the stencil? That's a guideline for A2 size cards, helping you position the pattern accurately. Also, we've included color guides for each of flowers on the stencil, making it easier to choose your colors. The A2 size guideline gives you flexibility to experiment with different rotations. You can rotate it horizontally or vertically and see how the pattern fits on your card panel. For this project, I decided to place it diagonally. I'm ensuring that the guidelines align closely with the corners of my card panel. To color the flowers, I'll be using the shader brushes from Waffle Flower along with some distress inks. For my first card, I'm going to stick to the color choices suggested on the stencil. So I began with the yellow distress ink color followed by bright orange and violet colors. You will find all the distress ink colors I used for today's cards listed on the project sheet that comes with your kit. All the layers are easy to line up after you ink blended the first flowers, but just in case you can make a small pencil mark to indicate the corner of the stencil. You can easily see through the stencil to find the flower centers, allowing you to line up the stencil perfectly. The third layer of the stencil can be colored with just one color, as I did. I used only one warm green distress ink color for this layer. I will share another option a bit later in this video. Finally, for the last layer of the stencil, which focuses on the flower centers, I used beautiful brown distress ink color to all of them. In your kit you will find a cute small stamp set that pairs perfectly with the stencil. I'm going to use the longest sentiment stamp on my card. Personally, I prefer stamp my sentiments with VersaFi Onyx Black ink. You can find a small version of this ink in the Fun Finds section on the Waffle Flower website. This technique allows you to use the A2 size stencil with larger panels. For example, here I have a big A7 white card panel. I'm going to align the stencil in the same way and create a diagonal flower pattern on the bottom of the card panel. The only difference is that I added shading over the flowers. I use smaller brushes and same ink colors only on edges of each flower, just to add depth to this beautiful pattern. For this larger card panel, I'm going to use another sentiment from the stamp set in the kit. In fact, I'm only using a part of the stamp to show you an option on how to pair it with the word die cut. It adds versatility to any of your design options. To finish my cards, I added a variety of colorful dots to them. I mixed two sets of bright and soft color dots to add vibrancy and interest to my cards. Another fun technique I want to share with you is creating a focal point by having a piece with different colors in the center of the card. You can use basic shape dies like an arch, rectangle, circle, or any other shape to cut out a small piece from the panel first. This adds dimension and draws attention to the center of your design. For the area outside of the opening, I'm applying different bright colors. This time I'm experimenting with a new color combo, violet and oranges. I find that they complement each other beautifully and add a vibrant touch to the card. With this stencil, you can use any possible color combination. It's such a versatile tool for creating stunning designs. After finishing applying colors on the outer frame, I carefully put the small die cut piece back in the center. I line it perfectly. Thanks to the guidelines on the grip mats for popular card sizes like A2 and A7, it's easy to ensure proper placement. Then I repeated the pattern on the smaller die cut piece using the same stencil. To create a different effect, I opted to use only gray distress ink color applied through the stencil. Mixing my only gray distress ink color with the distress oxide ink, I achieved a slightly different shading on the pattern. To create sentiments for this card, I decided to use white heat embossing powder. However, I want to add a twist by heat embossing them on colorful cardstock to create 3 different panels with sentiments on my cards. To speed up the heat embossing process, I will use a reverse stamping technique. First, I will leave all stamps on the protective sheet, and then I will place the stamp set on the silicone mat. Using an anti-static brush, I'll remove any static from the paper. Then I will apply clear watermark ink on the stamps, and I cover the stamp set with a piece of colored cardstock. Pressing down the paper with an acrylic block or by hand ensure proper ink transfer. I repeated this process with all 3 pieces of cardstock. Next, I covered them with white ultrafine embossing powder from Ranger. Using a heat gun, I melted the powder, ensuring the heat gun is very hot to avoid warping the paper. After the heat embossing was done, I had a big stack of ready-to-go sentiments for my cards. You can trim them with scissors or use a craft knife with ruler to separate a specific sentiment for the paper. For my card, I needed 3 of them, so I picked 1 from each color. Now I can glue down the card panel on the A2 size card base, as well as the small die cut piece. I'm placing it back in the center. Next, I will foam mount all 3 sentiments in the center of the card. To finish the card, I added white essence and details with my white gel pen. Now you can see how the sentiments stand out on a gray background while still having colorful flowers around. Another way to add more interest to the floral card background is by using glitter paste. But with this technique, I recommend changing the order of placing stencils of the card panel. Go with the stencil number 4 after stencil number 2, instead of stencil number 3. You want to have glitter paste layer as the last layer. Since I decided to add glitter paste on the leaves but not on the flower centers from layer number 4, I changed the order of the stencils. Afterward, make sure to clean up your tools and the mat right away, or it will be hard to clean them up later. To clean the grip mat, I use spray bottle with water and paper towel, which works every time. For this blue colored card, I want to have a colorful matching sentiment too. So I'm going to heat emboss 1 more sentiment on the blue cardstock. Actually, I heat embossed 1 sentiment twice to choose between larger and smaller paper strips. I think the smaller one will look better on this card design. So here's my finished card in blue tones with beautiful shiny accents on the leaves. I love how it turned out. And of course, you can use this floral pattern to cut out some flowers to create dimensional cluster. Sometimes I just enjoy the fuzzy cutting process, especially while I'm watching a new show. So I'm going to cut out some of the big flowers and try to leave a white border around them. I place the flowers in the center of white card panel, which is a bit smaller than A2 size. Additionally, I created diagonal strips on it with my scoring board. I'm using one of my ready-to-go sentiments and I put 2 floral die cuts underneath. Also, I decorated this card with some clear enamel dots from Waffle Flower. Here's my finished card, and I love how versatile this stencil is. I created a bunch of cute cards with it, and I will share more of them on the Waffle Flower Instagram page. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you next month. Bye!